Okay, third time's the charm. So, this is my program called Vanilla Sky. And what it does is talk to ChatGPT and generate a script. After the script is generated, we talk to ElevenLabs through their API and generate some voices. Right now, it is okay, but it's pretty highly targeted towards my individual use case, and I want to make this more generalized. What this kind of tool is useful for is for creating online videos. There are tons of what are called faceless YouTube channels, and they use this kind of approach. But what they do is they type everything into ChatGPT, have a conversation, and then at the end of it, they copy and paste the results. There are a lot of manual steps, and since I'm a programmer, I wanted to make sure that I was more efficient. So, this is Vanilla Sky. Let's take a look at Docker. So, in case you're unfamiliar, Docker is a program that lets you run programs inside virtual containers, virtual machines. I'm not sure what the actual technical term is, but Docker's pretty cool. Let me pull up Docker for myself. All right, so I have three services. I have Vanilla Sky, which is the base program. Then I have RabbitMQ, which is my queuing system. Oh, I have another camera, so let me switch to that. All right. Oh, let me turn on my light. It doesn't help much. Okay, so Vanilla Sky is my Python program. RabbitMQ handles the queues. And then tasks is my task consumer. And right now, there are only two tasks that it knows about. There's add numbers and multiply numbers. When I'm setting up, I keep forgetting to change where I'm looking. Okay. So whenever I first set up Celery, I like to have dummy tasks that don't do much of anything. In this case, I have add numbers, which adds two numbers, and multiply numbers, which multiplies numbers. That's great. So the point of this live stream is to put a lot of the techniques that I use day to day with my programming. I need to remember to enunciate. So I'm going to use these tools as I code, and you can see how much AI can speed you up. The bottleneck to writing any code up to this point in a software project is ultimately about the amount of time you can the amount of time you can invest into doing something. So let's say you want to write something cool. It takes an hour, 2 hours to like type out everything, get your syntax errors cleared up, test it, realize it doesn't do something the right way, change it, test again. There's a lot of testing in software development. And a big part of it comes from having to write code that has syntax errors because we're humans and we make mistakes. With AI, it can just generate the code for us. So I'm going to show you some of my techniques, not because I'm trying to make sure that you're open to buying something from me. Right now, it's just because I think it's super cool. The buying will come later, don't worry. Now, where am I? Let's switch to VS Code. So let's go through the structure of the program real quick. All right, so I have three top level files, and I should switch cameras. Three top level file folders. First is Docker, which has all my Docker images. Then there's Python, which contains my Python files. Then there's a folder called Userland. This is where users are meant to interact with things. They can add files to input files once I get to that point to process things. Right now it doesn't process anything. Everything's done automatically. Then I have generated files, which is where the files from the AI are going to go. Then we have prompts. These are where the prompts are kept. And then we have logs. So our Python directory has several other directories. We have Celery Consumer, which processes the tasks that are dispatched through RabbitMQ. Then we have Dream Start, which is probably a name I'm going to change, but it's the entry point for the Vanilla Sky program. Then I have two env files. Well, I have an example file, then my actual env file, and I'm going to try my bestest to remember not to look at that file while I've got the stream going. We'll see. All right, I'm going to get to everything else as it becomes relevant. So I need to go through the code and figure out where I was, which is always the hardest part. Of course, the next hardest part is going to be remembering to talk the whole time. I'm usually talking to myself in my head. It's different having an audience. Well, right now I don't have any audience, but I have faith. Definitely takes the pressure off though. So in this file, which is in utilities prompts, this is what I first did. So I had a file called utilities prompts. I'm in the process of moving everything from there into tasks prompt. So let me look at this, make sure that it's correct. All right, I'm importing celery. Got my utilities. Program execution starts in Dream Start. First, we initialize everything. Then we generate a random number. Then we use ChatGPT to create a prompt. This line is working fine. And here, we then create a script from the AI call. So we take prompt, which, let's see, create prompt from template. Where am I importing it from? From utilities. I need to import it from tasks. So from tasks, import, what am I calling it? Prep numerology. Now the reason it's called prep numerology is because my initial video idea was to get involved in numerology videos. There is a lot of interest in spiritual stuff like that. You don't have to worry about generating tons of different quizzes all the time. Just pick a number, come up with what it means, then make a video about it. However, I want to make sure that this process is more straightforward. So it's going to be not about numerology as much. It's just going to tackle any kind of prompt that you've got. So to that end, create prompt from template. I am passing in the number. I think I had updated the signature. No, I had not. I need to update the signature. So one thing that it's doing when it generates all these assets is it doesn't generate the folder correctly. It generates it at one point, but it's late in the process. I need to generate the folder first. Does that need to be a separate program? I don't know. Okay. The thing I'm trying to figure out is where the folder is written. My friend is asking me to explain why the stream is bad, but I'm on the stream. You're hearing all of the noise because my microphone is picking up everything from the desk. I need to get a boom mic. So I know the folder is being generated now. I think it's when we are generating the voices, so let's confirm. 11, generate audio from text. So it's under AI, elevenlabs, generate audio from text. Does it make the folder here? Yes. So let's make a brand new method that makes folders. So let's just call this prep directory. Now, what do I want to call this folder? Currently, generate random numbers. Generate random numbers returns a list of integers. And then I take that list and I pass it in here. And the way it's set up is that for every number that's processed, we create a folder for that number. If I look at the userland directory, generated files, you see that there are some folders. But the process needs to be fixed. So I need to create a folder. It would be best if the folder could have some sort of descriptive name. The easiest way to do it is going to be to and then I didn't have a solution. What is the easiest way? The easiest way is to have a date, the time that you created it. It's better to have a semantic name, something that means something. I think it could be the name of the project and then a dash and the date that it was generated, and then inside you have folders. Now that brings me to my next question, which is, do I need to do that now? One thing that programmers love to do, and I'm no exception, is to make things as complicated and detailed and sophisticated as possible, but that doesn't get you closer to your goal. I need to focus on getting this code working. So I should only work on things that are going to get me closer to that goals. It already makes a folder. There are two ways I can handle this. Quickest way is going to be the date, so I'm going to do that. But we could tell ChatGPT to come up with a good name for the folder. We could name it after the template that we're using. But a date's going to be the fastest. So let's do that. Now I get ChatGPT involved. Well, not quite yet. So prep directory needs to live inside utilities. So utilities is my module here on the left. Got numbers, I've got prompts, I've got simple logger. So I'm gonna take numbers, I'm gonna save it as a new file. Oh, it's not showing that. All right, I'm gonna call this files. I'm sure that I'll need OS, so I'll add that. So now I go to Copilot. This is a less capable version of ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT Plus, which gives me access to ChatGPT 4, and it is miles better than ChatGPT 3 or 3.5. But Copilot uses 3.5, and it's generally okay. There are some problems with it, but we'll get around them. So what do I need? I need to create a method that checks for the existence of a directory called output folder. That's not what it's really called, but I'll copy and paste later. Checks for the existence of a directory called output folder. If it doesn't exist, the method creates it. Let's see what it does. All right, so now I'm going to click that button, which populates it. Now I'm going to prove it. Let's add an optional argument to the method declaration. It will then optional argument called folder name. If it is empty, default to the current date in MMDDYY format. It may not be able to do all of this inside the method declaration. Yeah, it does it inside the function. So copy paste this from datetime, import datetime. If folder name is none, folder name equals datetime now, strf time mdy. If now exists, folder name make trace folder. So we need to tell it where to make the folder name. And that means looking at a different file. Constants. There's files. So prompt directory is not what I want. Constants general. It is my output directory. If not OS path exists, let's use an F string, top level directory. And then that leads us to our output directory for all generated files. Now I'm not sure if I need a trailing slash on here, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT what to do. Does output directory. Well, the way that Copilot works is it can see what you've highlighted. So if I reference output directly, if I reference output directory, it should know what I'm talking about. Does output directory need a trailing slash? No, OS path exists does not require a trailing slash. When you use it, Python will check the path you provided corresponds to an existing file or directory, regardless of whether you included a trailing slash. However, there seems to be a syntax error in your code. Did anybody ask you, ChatGPT, what is the syntax error? I didn't end with a comma. Is the syntax error still there? All right, so I will just replace the entire line. I prefer to know if this method is going to fail. So I'm going to ask for a way to return success or failure. return a Boolean variable that indicates success, failure. Now, when I first started using Copilot, I checked every single line of code, but generally, it knows what it's doing. So I need to change this to return a Boolean. It missed that. If folder name is none, folder name equals the date, define the directory path. If it does not exist, try to make it. If it works, return true. If it fails, we need to use logger. I have a utility called logger in my utilities class. Import logger from utilities. Need to make sure that I use logger here. Logger error. And for this project, I'm putting the name that is happening in. So this would be utilities files.py. Now I'm sure that there's a better way to do this, but at this point, I'm familiar with it. Now that I've created my method, I need to add it to the init file for the module. So from dot, to show that I'm in the same directory, dot files, import prep directory. And now prep directory is ready to be referenced, has to be imported. Utilities, import prep directory. So there you have it. Don't know why I coughed. All right. Do we want to pass in a name? No, because it will generate a date, and that's fine. It still feels like it needs a semantic name of some sort. But at this point, I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so directory is prepped. If not prepped, logger error. All right, save it. And this is a good place to test it. Logger info. Prep directory for output, sys, exit, 0, because there's no problem. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Docker. Need to fix the webcam. All right. And let's stop this. It's going to take a couple minutes to shut down. All right, restart. No module named utilities.file. That tells me that I messed up naming the module. Oh, the file's called files. Did I tell it to expect file? Yes, I did. All right, let's try again. Oh, you didn't see any of that because I didn't switch the scene. So let's go back to Docker. Clear the output, restart. Invalid syntax. Import, I got it backwards. From utilities, import logger. This is why you copy paste code. spelled import wrong. Clear the output, try again. Imbalance. Oh, wow. Can I import name logger from partially initialized module utilities? That is because of the way that Python imports work. So I need to do it like this. Inside init, we do this and we have the config. So actually, well, I would think I could do from utilities import logger, but clearly I can't, or wouldn't be getting that error message. It is hard doing this with an audience. I keep thinking about, am I taking too long to do this? But like if I was by myself, I'd just be chilling and figuring out what's not working. So let's try doing this the way that the init method does it. Let me show you the code. So I took the same approach in the init file. We import config, then we import simple logger and instantiate a version. But for files, import the config, import simple logger, instantiate it. Now let's go to Docker, see if it works. Can I import name prep numerology from task? This is on line 16. So we haven't gotten down to the code I've changed yet, so I need to fix this. So let's go to VS Code. Just gonna comment out this line. And then go back to Docker. All right, it looks like it works. So now let's check our file system. It should have a folder with today's date in userland. So userland, generated files. I don't see the date. Did it get created somewhere else? No, I know the problem. So it's doing looping. I have the looping enabled so that all this AI code doesn't execute. So I need to change that. And all I do is comment this out. Go back to Docker. Stop program execution. Looks like we're still waiting for it to stop. There we go. Reload. All right, so it contacted 11labs, prepped directory for output. So if I go to generated files, I have 3, 20, 24, which is what I wanted. So now is a good time for a break. So I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Did my 0 streamers miss me? So now that the directory is made, let's change this. Let's have it always create a top level date folder and then add a folder name if it exists. So let's call this top level folder equals and then if folder name is none, if folder name is not none, yeah, VS Code figured out what I wanted to do. So what's going to happen is if folder name is none, then our top level folder is just going to be the date. If the top level folder is not empty, then we'll create it inside of top level folder. So let's try that. I'm going to delete the other directory. I have no idea if it will make 2 directories at once, but we'll find out together. So let's call this test and go to Docker and let's reload. Prep directory for output. All right, we have 320 and test. Nice. So now that I have a folder that could be one of 2 things, I need to keep track of that folder name. So we're going to return a string. So now that I have folder name, it's always going to be something. So let's just call this, well, folder name is already none, potentially. If folder name is none, let's rewrite this. Can you rewrite this? If folder name is none, it should equal top level folder. If it is not none, folder name should be appended to top level folder. At the end, we want to return folder name when the method ends. Let's see what it does. So it just adds an if else to make sure that folder name is always going to be returned. That works. I feel comfortable enough with that I don't really need to track that. So project directory is the output of prep directory. Now we need to take project directory and we can pass it elsewhere. This is surprisingly exhausting, so I'm going to stop for now.